He taunted her species' mating rituals, then realized too late. He'd accidentally completed 1 Ninardabado, Part 1. The music in the grand hall of Station Carrick 7 was too loud for Marcus Cole's taste. He stood near the bar, holding a glass of something blue that the bartender promised would not kill him. Around him, dozens of alien species mingled and talked. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. A few floated instead of walked. Marcus was a commander in the Terran expansion fleet. He was 34 years old, with short brown hair and a scar on his chin from a fight he barely remembered. He was tall for a human, but here, surrounded by aliens, he felt small. He did not like feeling small. The gala was meant to celebrate a new trade agreement. Humanity had only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. They were still the new kids, still proving themselves. Marcus hated these events. He preferred battlefields to ballrooms. But his superiors had ordered him to attend, smile, and not start any wars. He was failing at the smiling part. A Torvaxian diplomat approached him. The Torvaxians looked like tall insects with hard shells and too many teeth. This one wore expensive robes and had a smile that made Marcus want to punch something. "Ah, the human," the Torvaxian said. His voice buzzed like a broken speaker. "I have heard much about your species. Tell me, is it true that your kind simply bumps into each other and produces offspring, like animals?" Marcus felt his jaw tighten. He knew the Torvaxian was trying to insult him. The smart thing would be to walk away. Marcus had never been accused of being smart. "At least we don't have to perform ridiculous dances or exchange glowing rocks to find a mate," Marcus said loudly. A few nearby aliens turned to look. "Seriously? I read about some of these courtship rituals. One species has to fight their own mother, another has to sing for 6 hours straight. And the Velkari?" He laughed. "They wave their hands around like they're directing traffic and then share drinks like it's some sacred ceremony. It's all very dramatic." The Torvaxian's smile grew wider, but something strange happened. The other aliens nearby went very quiet. Some of them stepped backward. One small creature simply ran away. Marcus did not notice. He was too busy enjoying himself. "I mean, humans figured it out ages ago," he continued. "You meet someone, you like them, you tell them. Simple. No magic rocks, no dancing. No." He made a gesture with his hand. He had seen it in a cultural database about the Velkari. It looked silly to him. A complex motion where the fingers moved in a wave pattern while the wrist rotated. He did it mockingly, then held out his drink toward the empty air beside him. "No offering of sacred beverages to prove your worth," he finished with a grin. The Torvaxian's face changed. His smile disappeared. His eyes went wide. He looked at something behind Marcus. Marcus turned around. She was tall. Very tall. Over 7 feet of lean muscle covered in scales that shimmered like oil on water. She had 4 arms, 2 folded across her chest and 2 hanging at her sides. Her face was almost cat-like, with high cheekbones and a small nose. But her eyes were what caught him. They were large and deep, and they were slowly changing color from amber to a dark, rich violet. She was Velkari. She was beautiful. She was staring directly at him. Marcus felt his stomach drop. He started. The Velkari woman reached out with one of her lower arms. She took the drink from his hand. Her movements were slow and deliberate. The entire room seemed to hold its breath. She drank it. All of it. She never broke eye contact with Marcus. Then she spoke. Her voice was deep and smooth, like distant thunder. She said something in her own language. Marcus did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. It was formal, final, important. The Torvaxian diplomat made a sound like a scream and ran. Actually, ran. His expensive robes flapped behind him as he disappeared into the crowd. Around the room, every Velkari present, and there were at least a dozen, dropped to one knee. Their heads bowed low. Marcus stood frozen. His brain was trying very hard to understand what was happening. It was failing. "What?" he said slowly. "Just happened?" The Velkari woman tilted her head. Her eyes were still that deep violet color. "You do not know?" "I really do not know." An elderly Velkari approached. He was shorter than the woman, his scales faded with age. He moved with the careful dignity of someone very important. "Congratulations, human," the elder said. His voice carried across the silent room. "You have initiated the rite of binding. The Blade Matriarch Kethvara Sunborn has accepted your proposal." Marcus blinked. "I'm sorry. The what now?" "The rite of binding. The sacred ritual of bonding between mates." The elder looked at him with what might have been amusement. "You performed the opening gesture. You offered drink from your own hand. She accepted. The first stage is complete." Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. "The first stage? How many stages are there?" "5. "And what happens if we complete all 5? The elder smiled. It was not a comforting smile. "Then you will be bonded to the Blade Matriarch for life. Your souls will be joined until death separates them. It is the highest honor any being can receive." Marcus looked at Kethvara. She looked back at him. Her expression gave nothing away. "I was joking," he said weakly. "It was a joke. I didn't mean to." "The ritual does not care about meaning," Kethvara said. Her voice was calm, almost cold. "It cares about action." "You acted. I responded. What is done cannot be undone. But there has to be a way out. Some kind of, I don't know, alien divorce?" The silence that followed told him everything he needed to know. Somewhere in the back of his mind, Marcus heard his commanding officer's voice from this morning. "Try not to start any wars, Cole." He had a feeling he had done something much worse. Kethvara stepped closer to him. She was so tall that he had to look up to meet her eyes. They were shifting again, moving through shades of purple and blue. "You have 5 days to prepare," she said. "Then we travel to my home world. There you will face the remaining trials." She paused. "If you survive them." "If I survive them?" She did not answer. She simply turned and walked away, the crowd parting before her like water around a stone. Marcus stood alone in the middle of the grand hall. Every eye in the room was on him. Human, alien, it did not matter. They all stared. He looked down at his empty hand, where his drink had been. "Well," he said to no one in particular, "this is going to be hard to explain in my report." He taunted her species mating rituals, then realized too late. He'd accidentally completed HFY Part 2. The Velkari ship was called the Obsidian Flame. It was black as night and shaped like a blade. Marcus thought it looked angry. He felt the same way. 5 days had passed since the incident at the gala. 5 days of meetings, arguments, and people yelling at him through video screens. The Terran diplomatic corps was in chaos. Some officials wanted to use his situation as political leverage. Others wanted to pull him out immediately and pretend nothing happened. In the end, the decision was made for him. Refusing the ritual publicly would be a terrible insult to the Velkari. It could destroy the fragile peace between their species. It might even start a war. So Marcus had to play along. He had to travel to their home world, complete the trials, and somehow find a way out that did not involve explosions or declarations of war. He stood in his small cabin on the Velkari ship, staring out the window at the stars. The room was plain but comfortable. The Velkari had given him everything he needed. They were polite, professional, but he could feel them watching him, judging him. A knock came at his door. "Enter," he said. The door slid open. Kethvara stood there. She had to duck slightly to fit through the doorway. In the dim light of the cabin, her scales seemed to glow faintly. "We need to talk," she said. "I figured." He gestured to the only chair in the room. "Please sit. Unless sitting is also some kind of sacred ritual I should know about." She did not smile at his joke. She did not sit either. She stood with all four arms crossed, looking down at him with those color-shifting eyes. "I want you to understand something," she said. "I did not accept your gesture because I wanted a human mate. I accepted because refusing would have shown weakness. The Torvaxian was watching. Many others were watching. A blade matriarch cannot appear weak. So this is all politics." "Yes and no." She paused. Her eyes shifted from violet to a lighter blue. "I expected you to withdraw, to apologize, to find some human way out of this. When you did not, I was surprised." Marcus shrugged. "My superiors decided that insulting your entire species would be bad for business. So here I am, ready to fail your trials gracefully and go home." "That is the plan, then? To fail? Do I have another option?" Kethvara studied him for a long moment. Then she moved to the window and stood beside him, looking out at the passing stars. "The trials are not meant to be won," she said quietly. "They are meant to test character, to show how a potential mate handles pressure, fear, and challenge. Most participants fail by the second trial. A few reach the third. None have ever completed all 5. Not even your own people? We are born knowing these rituals. We train for them our entire lives, and still most fail." She looked at him. "You know nothing. You have no training. You will fail quickly. And then we will both be free, with our honor intact." Marcus nodded slowly. It made sense. Go through the motions, lose with dignity, go home. Simple. But something in him did not like the word fail. He had never been good at accepting defeat. "What if I don't fail?" he asked. Kethvara's eyes shifted to a silver color he had not seen before. "Then you would be the first outsider ever deemed worthy by our traditions. You would be bonded to me. Forever. Our lives would be joined. Would that be so terrible?" The question surprised both of them. Marcus had not meant to ask it. The words had simply come out. Kethvara turned away from the window. "You do not know what you are asking. You do not know our ways, our history, our pain. Then teach me." She was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer than before. "There is a library in the lower deck. It contains our histories, our customs, our rituals. If you truly wish to understand, you may study there." She walked toward the door. "But do not mistake knowledge for wisdom, human. Many have learned our ways. Few have truly understood them." She left without another word. Marcus stood alone in his cabin, thinking. He could do what everyone expected. Go through the motions, fail, go home, return to his normal life of battles and bars and loneliness. Or he could do something unexpected. He found the library an hour later. It was a beautiful room filled with glowing screens and ancient books. The Velkari kept both digital and physical records. They believed that some knowledge was too important to trust to machines alone. Marcus began to read. He learned that the Velkari were once a warrior race, feared across the galaxy. They had conquered dozens of worlds. But centuries ago they had changed. They had turned inward, focusing on honor, tradition, and family. The mating rituals he had mocked were actually tests of the most important qualities a Velkari could have: cunning, strength, trust, sacrifice, and choice. Each trial tested one quality. The first trial, which he had accidentally completed, tested boldness, the willingness to reach out to another, even at the risk of rejection. The second trial was called the Hunt of Proving. The potential mate would be released into the wilderness. The other would hunt them. For 3 days, the hunted had to survive. It tested cunning and survival skills. The third trial was the offering of sustenance. The hunted, if they survived, would prepare food for the hunter. It showed the ability to provide, to nurture, to care for another. The fourth was the sharing of scars. Both participants would reveal their deepest wounds, their greatest shames. It tested trust and vulnerability. The fifth and final trial was the choosing. Both would stand before their people and declare their intentions. If both chose to continue, the bond would be sealed. Forever. Marcus read late into the night. He read until his eyes burned and his head ached. And as he read, something strange happened. He stopped thinking about how to fail. He started thinking about how to win. Not because he wanted to be bonded to Kethvara. Not because he had any feelings for her beyond mild terror and grudging respect, but because the rituals themselves were beautiful. They made sense. They were not silly dances or meaningless gestures. They were tests of everything that mattered in a partnership. And Marcus Cole had never backed down from a test in his life. The ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel on the third day. Marcus stood at the viewing deck and saw the Velkari homeworld for the first time. It was breathtaking. Mountains of crystal rose from vast forests that glowed with soft blue light. Rivers of silver wound through valleys of purple grass. In the distance, cities of elegant spires reached toward the sky. And below, gathered in an enormous clearing, thousands of Velkari waited. Kethvara appeared beside him. She was dressed in ceremonial armor now, black and gold. She looked like a goddess of war. "The second trial begins at dawn," she said. "The hunt. Yes. You will be released into the Velshara wilderness. For 3 days I will hunt you. If I catch you, the ritual ends. You will be defeated, but with honor. And if you don't catch me?" Her eyes shifted to that strange silver again. "No one has ever escaped me, Marcus Cole. No one." He looked out at the glowing forests, the crystal mountains, the alien world that would either be his grave or his proving ground. "There's a first time for everything," he said. For the first time since he had known her, Kethvara smiled. It was small, barely visible, but it was real. "Perhaps," she said. "We shall see." And he taunted her species mating rituals, then realized too late. He'd accidentally completed Part 3. The Velshara wilderness was trying to kill Marcus. He was certain of it. He had been running for 2 days now. His legs ached. His lungs burned. His uniform was torn and covered in mud and strange blue sap from plants he could not name. He had not slept more than an hour at a time. He had eaten things he preferred not to think about. And somewhere behind him, Kethvara was hunting. The rules of the hunt were simple. Marcus would be given a 1-hour head start. Then Kethvara would follow. She could use any skill, any weapon, any technique. He was allowed only a knife and his wits. If she caught him before sunset on the third day, the hunt ended. He lost. What they had not told him was that no one had ever survived all 3 days. The hunt was not designed to be won. It was designed to show how the hunted person faced certain defeat. Marcus had never been good at accepting certain defeat. On the first day, he ran. He pushed through the glowing forests, crossed streams of silver water, climbed hills covered in strange flowers. He left obvious trails at first, then began hiding his tracks. He used tricks he had learned in military survival training. He doubled back on his own path. He walked through water to hide his scent. He climbed trees and moved through the branches. By nightfall, He had covered 20 miles. He found a small cave and allowed himself 2 hours of sleep. He dreamed of violet eyes watching him in the dark. On the second day, he stopped running and started thinking. Pure speed would not save him. Kethvara was faster, stronger, and knew this land far better than he ever could. If he kept running, she would catch him eventually. He needed a different approach. He remembered something from the library. The Velkari respected cunning above almost everything else. A warrior who won through cleverness was honored more than one who won through strength alone. So Marcus began to set traps. He used his knife to cut vines and branches. He created false trails that led to dead ends. He built simple traps that would slow anyone following him. Nothing deadly, just obstacles, distractions. In the afternoon, he heard her for the first time, a soft sound in the distance, branches moving, leaves rustling. She was close. He climbed a tree and watched. Kethvara moved through the forest like a shadow. Her 4 arms helped her climb and swing with impossible grace. She found one of his false trails and followed it. When she reached the trap he had set, she paused. It was simple. A vine stretched across the path at ankle height, connected to a pile of rocks balanced in a tree. If she tripped the vine, the rocks would fall. Not enough to hurt her, just enough to make noise and let him know where she was. She studied the trap for a long moment. Then, to his surprise, she laughed. It was a beautiful sound, deep and warm like summer thunder. "Clever," she said aloud. She knew he could not hear her, but she said it anyway. Then she carefully stepped over the vine and continued her hunt. Marcus smiled in his tree. She had passed his test. Now it was time for the next one. By the end of the second day, she had found and avoided 6 of his traps. Each one was more complex than the last. Each one she solved without triggering. But each one also cost her time. As the sun set, Marcus knew he was still ahead, barely, but ahead. On the third day, he changed his strategy again. He had found something during his exploration, a creature. The locals called it a shade walker. It was the size of a horse with 6 legs and fur that shifted color to match its surroundings. It was one of the apex predators of the Velshara. Normally, it would attack anything that entered its territory. But Marcus had noticed something. The Shadewalker hunted using sound. It was nearly blind. Its ears were enormous, able to pick up the slightest noise from miles away. Marcus had spent his third day building a device from scraps he had gathered, wires from his torn uniform, metal from his belt buckle, a power cell from his emergency beacon. It was rough and ugly, but it worked. It produced a frequency just at the edge of hearing. A frequency that the Shadewalker found soothing. When he first turned it on, the creature had approached him slowly. It sniffed him. It circled him. Then, impossibly, it lay down beside him and closed its eyes. Marcus had just tamed an apex predator using spare parts and basic physics. As the afternoon of the third day arrived, Marcus made his choice. He was tired of running, tired of hiding. He wanted to end this on his own terms. He found a clearing near a small stream. He gathered wood. He built a fire. Using skills his grandmother had taught him decades ago, he prepared a meal. It was simple. Some roots he had identified as safe to eat. A fish from the stream. Wild herbs that smelled like mint and tasted like pepper. Then he sat down and waited. The sun was setting when Kethvara arrived. She came through the trees like a force of nature. Her armor was dusty from 3 days of pursuit. Her eyes were bright with the thrill of the hunt. She stopped at the edge of the clearing, all 4 hands ready, expecting one final trap. Instead, she found Marcus sitting by a fire, a meal cooking over the flames, and a massive Shadewalker sleeping peacefully beside him. "Hello," he said. "Hungry?" Kethvara stared at him. Her eyes shifted through colors he could not name. She looked at the Shadewalker. She looked at the fire. She looked at the food. This is... She seemed to struggle for words. This is not how the hunt ends. Why not? You are supposed to run, to hide, to fight perhaps at the end. You are not supposed to—" She gestured at the scene before her. "This," Marcus shrugged. "I figured I'd probably lose eventually. You're better at this than me. Faster, stronger. You know this land. I'm just a human with a knife and some bad ideas." He poked the fire with a stick. "But I thought, if I'm going to lose, I'd rather share a meal with you first. Seemed like the right thing to do." Kethvara was silent for a long moment. The Shadewalker shifted in its sleep, making a sound like a purring engine. "Do you know what you have done?" she asked finally. "Made dinner?" "The third trial." Her voice was strange, soft. "The offering of sustenance. The hunted prepares food for the hunter. It shows the ability to provide, to care." She stepped into the clearing. "You should not have known about this. It is secret, revealed only after the hunt ends." Marcus froze. "I read about it. In your library. I thought it was just symbolic." "Nothing in our rituals is just symbolic." She moved closer. The firelight danced on her scales. "You have completed 2 trials in 1 day. The hunt and the offering. No one has ever done this." No one. She sat down across the fire from him. She was so close he could see the individual scales on her face, the way they overlapped like armor made of jewels. "You are either the luckiest human alive," she said, "or the most dangerous. Can I be both?" She did not answer. Instead, she reached out and took the food he had prepared. She ate it slowly, carefully, her eyes never leaving his face. When she finished, she set down the empty plate. Her eyes had settled on a color he had never seen before, not violet, not silver, something new, something that made his heart beat faster. "What are you, Marcus Cole?" she whispered. He thought about the question. He thought about his whole life, the battles, the losses, the loneliness he had hidden behind jokes and bravado. "I'm just a man," he said, "who's tired of running away from things that scare him." They sat by the fire as the stars came out. The Shadewalker woke up, looked at them both, and went back to sleep. Neither of them spoke for a long time. They did not need to. The 4th trial was coming. And for the first time, Marcus was not thinking about how to escape it. He was thinking about what it might mean if he did not. He taunted her species' mating rituals, then realized too late. He'd accidentally completed Part 4. The Temple of Ancestors was carved into the heart of the Crystal Mountain. It had stood for 10,000 years, built by Velkari hands in an age when humans were still learning to farm. Marcus felt very small as he walked through its ancient halls. News of his performance in the hunt had spread across the galaxy. Video of him sitting by the fire, calmly offering food to his hunter, had been watched billions of times. Some called him a hero, others called him a fool. The Torvaxians called him a cheat and demanded the ritual be stopped. The Velkari Council had refused. The rituals were sacred. They had been completed correctly. To stop now would be to insult their own traditions. So the 4th trial would proceed. The sharing of scars. Marcus had read about this trial in the library, but the books had been vague. All he knew was that both participants would reveal their deepest wounds, their greatest shames, their darkest memories. He was not looking forward to it. A Velkari priest led him through the temple to a small chamber deep underground. The walls were covered in ancient writings. Candles burned in alcoves, casting dancing shadows. In the center of the room, 2 cushions faced each other. Kethvara was already there. She wore simple robes instead of her usual armor. Without the warrior's outfit, she looked different, softer, more vulnerable. "Sit," she said. Marcus sat. The priest spoke in the ancient Velkari language. Marcus did not understand the words, but he understood the meaning. They were being blessed, prepared, protected. Then the priest left, and they were alone. "The rules are simple," Kethavara said. "We take turns. We share truths. We cannot lie. We cannot hide." Her eyes were a calm blue. "I will go first." She took a deep breath. When she spoke, her voice was steady, but Marcus could hear the pain beneath it. 300 years ago I was bonded," she said. "His name was Velthorin. He was kind and strong, and he made me laugh. We were going to have children. We were going to grow old together." She paused. Her eyes shifted to a darker shade. "The Torvaxians attacked our colony world without warning. Velthorin led the defense. I was off-world, commanding a fleet. By the time I returned, the battle was over." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He died protecting civilians. He died alone. I was not there." Marcus said nothing. There was nothing to say. "I blamed myself," she continued. "I still blame myself. If I had been there, perhaps I could have saved him. Perhaps I could have died with him. Instead, I lived. I became the Blade Matriarch. I built my life around vengeance and duty." She looked at him. "I swore I would never bond again. Never love again. The risk was too great." She fell silent. The candles flickered. "Your turn," she said. Marcus had known this moment would come. He had thought about what to say, what truth to share. But now, sitting across from this woman who had just opened her soul to him, he found that the careful words he had prepared were not enough. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small pouch. Inside were 7 metal tags on chains. Dog tags. Human military identification. "These belong to my squad," he said. 7 soldiers. My family, really. We had served together for 5 years. I was their leader. They trusted me with their lives." He laid the tags on the floor between them. "Our mission was first contact. We were supposed to meet a new species, establish communication, build friendship. Easy job, safe job." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I got cocky. I thought I knew better than the protocols. I pushed too fast. I made jokes when I should have been careful. I treated their customs like they were silly." Kethavara's eyes never left his face. "The species misunderstood our intentions. They thought we were attacking. A fight broke out. In 20 minutes, every member of my squad was dead. Every single one." He touched the dog tags. "I survived because I was standing in the wrong place. A wall collapsed between me and the enemy. By the time I dug myself out, it was over." His hands were shaking. He had never told anyone the full truth before. "I killed them," he said. "My arrogance, my jokes, my refusal to take things seriously. It killed 7 people who trusted me." He looked up at her. "When I mocked your rituals at that gala, I was doing the same thing. Making jokes because I was scared. Because taking things seriously means admitting they matter. And things that matter can be lost." They sat in silence for a long time. The weight of their shared pain filled the room like water, rising around them. Finally, Kethavara spoke. "We are alike," she said. "Both of us hiding behind walls. Both of us afraid to feel." "Yes." She reached across the space between them. One of her hands, the lower right one, touched his. "I have watched you, Marcus Cole, through the hunt, through every moment since we met. I expected to see a foolish human stumbling through our sacred traditions. Instead, I saw someone fighting, learning, growing." Her eyes shifted to that strange new color again, the one he had first seen by the fire. "I saw someone worthy." "Worthy of what?" "Worthy of the risk." Before Marcus could respond, the chamber door exploded inward. 3 Velkari warriors burst through, weapons raised, but their scales were marked with symbols Marcus recognized from his reading. Traditionalists, fanatics who believed aliens should never touch their sacred rituals. "Abomination!" one of them screamed. "The human defiles our traditions. The matriarch betrays her blood." Kethvara was on her feet instantly. All four arms moved in perfect coordination. She grabbed a ceremonial blade from the wall and placed herself between Marcus and the attackers. "You dare attack during the sharing?" Her voice was ice and fire. "You disgrace yourselves and your ancestors." "The only disgrace is this thing pretending to be your mate." The lead attacker raised his weapon. "We do this for the purity of our people." They attacked. Marcus had seen combat before. He had fought aliens across a dozen worlds, but he had never seen anything like Kethvara in battle. She moved like water and struck like lightning. Her four arms wielded the blade in patterns that seemed impossible. She blocked, dodged, and counterattacked in a continuous flow of violence. But there were three of them, and they were prepared. One of them got past her guard. His blade swept toward Marcus's throat. Kethvara threw herself in its path. The blade caught her side, cutting deep through her robes. Silver blood, bright as moonlight, spilled onto the ancient stone floor. She screamed in rage and pain and struck back. The attacker fell, then the second, then the third. In moments, it was over. Kethvara collapsed. Marcus caught her before she hit the ground. He pressed his hands against her wound, trying to stop the bleeding. Her silver blood was warm against his skin. "Why?" he asked. "Why did you do that?" Her eyes were flickering between colors. Her breath was short and shallow. "Because," she whispered, "I do not wish this to end." Guards arrived. Medics followed. They took Kethvara away to be healed. Marcus was left standing in the ruined chamber, covered in her blood, his mind spinning. She had saved him. She had nearly died for him, not for politics, not for tradition, for him. One trial remained, the choosing. In 2 days, they would stand before the entire Velkari people and declare their intentions. Marcus already knew what he would say. He just hoped she would live to hear it. He taunted her species' mating rituals, then realized too late. He'd accidentally completed 1 Anduro. Part 5. The Grand Sanctum of the Velkari was the largest structure Marcus had ever seen. It rose from the crystal plains like a mountain made by hands instead of nature. Its walls were carved with 10,000 years of history. Its halls could hold 100,000 people. Today, they did. Velkari filled every seat, every balcony, every standing space. Cameras broadcast the ceremony to billions across the galaxy. Humans, Torvaxians, and dozens of other species watched from their distant worlds. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Marcus stood at the entrance to the sanctum, wearing formal Terran military dress. His medals gleamed on his chest. His boots were polished to mirrors. He looked for once like the hero people kept calling him. He did not feel like a hero. He felt terrified. Kethvara had survived her wounds. The Velkari medical technology was advanced, and she had healed quickly. But Marcus had not been allowed to see her during her recovery. Tradition demanded they remain apart until the choosing. 2 days of silence. 2 days of not knowing if she still wanted this. 2 days of wondering if her words in the temple had been spoken in weakness, not truth. Today he would find out. The ceremony began with drums, deep rolling thunder that shook the stone beneath his feet. Then horns, clear and high, calling across the plains. Finally, voices, thousands of Velkari singing in their ancient tongue. Marcus walked forward. The path to the center of the sanctum was long. Velkari watched him from both sides. Some looked curious, some looked hostile. Most looked simply amazed that he had made it this far. He kept walking. At the center of the sanctum, a raised platform held 2 positions. One was empty, waiting for him. The other held Kethvara. She stood tall and proud, her wounds hidden beneath ceremonial armor of gold and black. Her scales caught the light and scattered it like prisms. Her eyes were fixed on him as he approached. She was, Marcus thought, the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. He took his position across from her. The singing stopped. The drums fell silent. In the vast space of the sanctum, you could have heard a leaf fall. An ancient Velkari elder stepped forward, the same one who had spoken to Marcus at the gala, what felt like a lifetime ago. "We gather for the choosing," the elder said, his voice carried without effort, filling every corner of the chamber. "Two souls have walked the path of binding. They have proven boldness, cunning, nurturing, and trust. Now comes the final test." He turned to Kethvara. "Blade Matriarch Kethvara Sunborn, you stand at the threshold. Before your people and your ancestors, you must declare. Do you choose to complete the binding, or do you choose to walk away with honor and without shame?" Kethvara was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was strong and clear. "When this began, I expected nothing. A human who stumbled into our ways, a fool who would fail and free us both." She looked at Marcus. "I was wrong." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I have watched him learn our customs with respect and care. I have hunted him through the Velshara and seen his cunning. I have eaten the meal he prepared with his own hands. I have shared my deepest pain with him and heard his in return." Her eyes shifted to gold, bright, burning gold. "He saved nothing for himself. He gave everything to understanding. He treated our ways not as obstacles to escape, but as gifts to embrace." She stepped forward, closer to Marcus. "I have been alone for 300 years. I built walls around my heart and called them strength. I thought I would never bond again." Her voice softened. But this human, with his terrible jokes and his stubborn courage, found a way through those walls. She turned to face the crowd, then back to Marcus. "I choose him. Not for politics, not for tradition. I choose him because he showed me that love is not weakness. It is the bravest thing any being can do." She reached out and took his hand. "I choose Marcus Cole." The sanctum erupted. Some cheered, some gasped, some sat in stunned silence. The elder raised his hand for quiet, then turned to Marcus. "Commander Marcus Cole of Earth, you stand at the threshold. Before all gathered and all watching across the stars, you must declare. Do you choose to complete the binding, or do you choose to walk away?" Marcus looked at Kethvara. He looked at the crowd. He thought about his squad, about the 7 dog tags he still carried. He thought about all the years he had spent running from connection, hiding behind humor, afraid to let anything matter. Then he spoke. "When I first came here, I mocked your rituals. I laughed at the idea that waving your hands and sharing drinks could mean anything. I was scared and ignorant, and I used jokes as armor." He took a breath. "But your people understood something humans have forgotten. Love is not just chemistry. It is not just attraction. It is choice. It is waking up every day and choosing the same person. It is offering your drink to a stranger. It is hunting someone through a jungle and being proud when they outsmart you. It is sitting by a fire with your enemy and sharing a meal." He squeezed Kethvara's hand. "I have spent my whole life running from things that scared me, from responsibility, from connection, from the possibility of loss." He looked into her golden eyes. "I am done running." The sanctum had gone completely silent. "I choose her, not because I have to, not because of politics or duty. I choose her because she is brave and fierce and beautiful, and because she sat in a ruined temple and shared her pain with me when she did not have to." He smiled. "Also, she has 4 arms, which is terrifying but also very cool." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Even some of the hostile faces softened. "I choose Kethvara Sunborn, today and every day, until the stars go dark." The elder nodded slowly. His old eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. The choices have been made. The words have been spoken. Before the ancestors and all who witness, I declare the binding complete." He raised both hands. "From this day forward, you are one. Your souls are joined. Your paths are shared. What was two is now one. What was human and Velkari is now simply family." The sanctum exploded with sound, cheering, singing, drums beating in celebration. Kethavara pulled Marcus close, all four arms wrapping around him. He was completely surrounded by her, held tight, safe. "You are terrible at speeches," she whispered in his ear. "I know," he said, "but I meant every word." "I know," she said, and kissed him. 5 years later, Marcus stood on a balcony overlooking the crystal plains. He wore the robes of a Terran ambassador now. His hair had gone gray at the temples. The scar on his chin had faded. Kethavara stood beside him. She had ascended to Sun Matriarch 2 years ago, the highest position among her people. Together they had built something new, a bridge between worlds. Human soldiers trained in Velkari techniques. Velkari scholars studied human art and music. Children on both worlds grew up hearing stories of the human who had stumbled into a sacred ritual and found his way through. Behind them, in the Great Hall, a celebration was taking place. The 5th anniversary of their bonding, dignitaries from 100 species had come to honor them. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked. Kethavara looked at him. Her eyes were gold, always gold now when she looked at him. "Regret what?" "Accepting my drink. At that gala all those years ago. You could have refused. You could have let me embarrass myself alone." She thought about it for a moment. "I accepted because I had to. Because refusing would have shown weakness." She smiled. "But I would accept again now because I want to. Because you proved that sometimes the universe knows better than we do. Sometimes accidents are not accidents at all." From the hall behind them, they heard laughter. A young human ensign was telling a story, something about a Torvaxian diplomat and a mocking gesture. Marcus and Kethavara looked at each other. "Should we warn him?" Marcus asked. "Let him learn," Kethavara said. "Perhaps he will stumble into something wonderful." They stood together on the balcony, watching the stars come out over the crystal plains. Two souls from different worlds, joined by an accident, bound by choice. Some mistakes, Marcus had learned, were not mistakes at all. They were the universe correcting itself. And as Kethavara's hand found his in the darkness, he knew he would choose this life, choose her. Choose everything that had happened since that fateful night at Station Carrick 7, again and again and again, until the stars went dark. The end.